Good day and welcome to today's edition of Christians in Politics, reaching you from the studios of the Advent Cable Network Nigeria, ACNNTV. I am Smart Simon, and we shall be discussing a crucial topic. We are looking at democracy and politics of Godfatherism in Nigeria. And my guest for today's discussion is Barrister Patrice Akwara, former House of Representative candidate in the 2019 election. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for having me. Good day.
We will be right back after this timeout.
Godfatherism is a concept in politics of today. It is a concept that came from the word Godfather. And Godfather is not a political word. It is also a religious word. In the Christian doctrine of baptism, those who are baptized as infants, they have godfathers. But the ism in Godfatherism is what makes it now a challenge. In politics, someone is called the Godfather. And why he is called the Godfather is because he takes on another person, sometimes a younger person or even an older person. But the reason why he is taking such a person is because the person has no such capacity like he has. And so he gets him on board and sponsors him into politics, into a political office. By way of election, by way of appointment, he pushes him up to that office. And the essence of that Godfatherism play is for personal gain, because whoever is pushed up by the Godfather must serve the Godfather. And in most instances, usually those who have no financial background to contest in an election are sponsored by persons who are already wealthy but do not think that it is in their place to enter into politics themselves by taking such political positions. But they have the influence, they have the wealth to engage others to serve them in a kind of a business agreement. So the man who is the Godfather now sponsors his godson into politics, and the godson has a script written for him by his godfather, and he is expected to obey and act the script accordingly. Now, the godfather's intention is not for the betterment, in most cases, is not for the betterment of the society. It is business. He has already put in money, and his intention is that the godson now will return give a return over his own investment, as it were. For some godfathers in our political dispensation right now, there's a monthly allocation to their own accounts, bank accounts, from their godson. Because the essence of pushing such a person into politics is not to go and serve the people, but to go and serve them personally. Now, this is the bane of our politics today. Democracy has been said to be the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But somehow we have corrupt persons in politics right now because of the issue of Godfatherism. Now, a godfather who has no concern for the welfare of others would send his godson into politics not because he wants such a person to make a change, to help people and to make life better for the citizenry, but for the purpose of just enriching and amassing wealth, or embezzling government wealth. And that is not a good thing about Godfatherism. But at the same time, being a godfather to a political godson is something that, if it is used positively, can be of help. Like in the case of the Christian baptism, if an infant or a child is baptized because the godfather or the godmother is standing to say, I will train this person in the Christian way. So also, if we have a political godfather, the intention should be that the godfather will train his godson in the appropriate way of politics, so that he can now know how to handle himself in politics, how to help his people, how to bring development and the dividends of democracy to his people. That is the good side of it. And in that sense, godfather is like a mentor to the godson. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So what we have right now in our politics is a shameful display of arrogance of people who are ready to kill and to do all sorts of evil just to ensure that their business is not disrupted. So Godfatherism, as it is presently being practiced by a majority of our politicians, is a political corrupt practice, and it must not be encouraged, and nobody should support that. But if we have godfathers who have the fear of God, who are willing to mentor and to disciple younger persons who may not have the capacity to go into politics, but have the qualities that is requisite for occupying such political positions, such godfathers can sponsor, not because they are looking forward to a return on their own investment, but that they want the good for the society, and that should be encouraged.
The disadvantage is more than the advantage, because it is he who pays the piper that dictates the tune. It's a situation whereby somebody expends his money, his reputation, his time, his energy, and all that he has or he had to ensure your emergence. Of course, once the person emerges, you are duty bound to listen to him, and your failure to will be termed, or you'll be viewed as an ingrate. Now, that is why it is detrimental to the people. I'll give you a good example. I don't want to mention name, but I'm constrained to just cite one example. If you remember the issue of Godfatherism in Anambra politics, the President Minister of Labour, Ngige, was a brief governor that was not recognized in law because he was removed as a result of Godfatherism. He came in. It was alleged that he entered an oath, an agreement with a godfather. But when he came into the scene, he realized that he had a vision, he had a mission, and the vision is to serve the people, to improve on the lot of the people of Anambra State. He reneged the agreement, of course, because of the whole Godfatherism had on the body politics of Nigeria, so strong that it holding the jugular vein. They were able, it has not been had in the history of any political setup, save for the case of Ngige in Nigeria, that a sitting governor was kidnapped. That is the price he paid. But he beats every reasonable man hollow. To date, nobody has been held or punished for desecrating the exalted office of an executive governor of a state. Because the godfather in Nigerian politics is stronger than the person who is there as the overall boss. All of us, you see the Mekaba dance that is currently unleashing itself in Edo State between a godson and a godfather. The whole thing had turned sour. There are 1,001 of them. In fact, in Nigerian politics, you realize that you cannot be anything if you are not ready to pay obeisance to a godfather. Because of the long interregnum, the gap, the lacuna that had existed as a result of military long stay in the politics, body politics of Nigeria, responsible people, reasonable people, people who are what they are sought, are not into politics. It is the dregs of the society, the rejected in the society, that occupy the vacuum, nation abhorred vacuum, Now they've entrenched themselves in the system. So when the responsible people, the reasonable people, those who can think, those who can reason beyond their nose, are now ready to join the queue, they've occupied the whole space. So until they bow to these people in position, they cannot occupy space. That is why Godfatherism is disadvantage to Nigeria and to any system.
So I want to start our discussion right away. Okay. The first thing I want you to do for us is to tell us what is Godfatherism, and is there any history about Godfatherism?
Well, Godfatherism, well, it's in politics. Nigeria has always had godfathers in politics.
Okay.
You know, and although it has evolved, and by way of evolution, what it used to be before is no longer what it used to be now,
okay,
or what it is now. In the days in the colonial, when at the advent of civil rule or democracy, that is, during the days of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, people like Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, people like Sardauna, these people, on account of their popularity, their public acceptance, when they endorse you, you understand, it's like it's a go. You are a go. You know, when they say this person, you are going to be in this office, you understand, they will galvanize the support for you. And, you know, they had the best interests of the masses at heart. So they went for the best. They wanted, at that time they were building a country, you know. We were transiting from colonial rule to independence, to ruling ourselves. So it was very important for them to bring in people who had the education, who had followed them, who had the patriotic zeal to lead. So you can't imagine that Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe will say, okay, Emma Bara, you will become the premier and there will be an opposition, or maybe SLR Kintola become the premier, in the West, and there will be an opposition, because these people, they have garnered a lot of social trust. The people could trust them, but over time, the brand of Godfatherism that we are facing is a different type of Godfatherism. This one had nothing to do with helping the people. This one has what you now, or rather what's obtainable, is just the so-called Godfathers. Their main interest is the purse, the till. They just want to put in their surrogates, who, on whether they are qualified or not, who will just go in there either as governor or local government chairman or whoever, just to be there so that they can have access to the common till of the people.
Okay, so this is the history now.
Exactly.
You've been able to tell us. Now, with what you are saying, it's like Godfatherism is part of politics.
Yes, Godfatherism is part of politics. Yes, it's only that in our own, when you talk of politics, if you have a world view of politics, you know, it may not be obtainable in Western culture. But you know, in Africa, we, well, how do I put it? In Africa, we, we always have lineups. You know, this is the political parties. They have somebody who will bring in somebody who will bring in somebody. But essentially, the kind of politics we run, we're just evolving. We're just evolving. So most times, aspirants or candidates may not have enough money. So they go to
Someone who is having money.
Yeah, who is having money and who also has the clout, you know, to fund his election. And obviously, they will sit down and do some kind of agreement.
Okay.
On, I bring in the fund, and not only the fund, I also bring in capacity, people who have the capacity for violence. You understand? Godfathers not only bring money, but also bring thugs, people who have the capacity to make sure that their candidate wins. That's why there's so much violence in our election.
Okay.
You know.
All right. Let me put you on the spot.
Okay.
Godfatherism, is it good or bad?
It cannot be
and
good.
How does it affect the system of democracy in Nigeria?
Of course, it has bastardized democracy. I don't even think that we have democracy in Nigeria. All we have is just civil rule. Democracy is, you know, as has been defined, it's a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. But what you see is a government of the few, for the few, by the few. So we don't have democracy in this country. It's just that we are not being ruled by the military. We are ruled by civilians. So that's what we have. So it's a hybrid. What we have is a very negative hybrid, a situation that doesn't really work for the people. Democracy is supposed to work for the people. It's supposed to be a situation whereby the people freely choose, people freely elect who will govern their affairs over time, in 4 years. But what we see now is a situation whereby there's so much money involved in that people just come, collect as little as 1,000 and vote for a particular person, unmindful of whether the person has the requisite capacity, the training, the experience, or has even proved in his previous engagements to manage the affairs of the state.
Okay.
So it's just about money.
All right. So you say Godfatherism is bad.
Of course.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, what is wrong with if I identify you and I notice you be a good leader and I sponsor you and you go there and actually you succeed?
So long as you don't make me pay you a certain amount of money every month or every quarter, so long as you don't dictate, just like what happened during the days of Rashidi Ladoja, when Rashidi Ladoja, I think it was in 1999 in Oyo, Rashidi Ladoja was the then governor, Lamidi Adedibu, sponsored him. When it was time to appoint his commissioners, the strongman of Ibadan, Lamidi Adedibu, gave him, out of the 14 names, he sent 13 names to him and said he should only take one. Take one after I sponsored you. So how can he? So it means he has mortgaged, by virtue of sponsoring him, he has mortgaged his conscience to him. He cannot do anything, or he has no agenda. There's no agenda. He runs the agenda of his godfather. So all the contracts to be awarded will be awarded to him. He determines who gets the contract. So it cannot be said to be good.
So what that means is that the godfathers we have today,
yes,
when they identify you and sponsor you to occupy a certain position, they always have interior motive.
Of course.
For sponsoring you. Yes. So it is not just about you are good for this position, you will do well for the people, or I am sponsoring you, go. So it's not like that.
It can never be like that. For them, it's just an investment. It's an investment that has a return, and the returns are spelled out. Just like what happened, also talking about I think in 2003, when Chris Ngige was the governor of Anambra State.
Yes, sir.
He was sponsored. His election was bankrolled by Dr. Chris Uba. At the end of the day, we found out that they entered a contractual agreement whereby he'll be paying him a certain amount of money every month, inclusive of juicy contracts. But Dr. Chris Ngige, the present minister for Labour, he wanted to make a name for himself. He wanted a departure from what used to happen in the administration of Dr. Chimaro Mbadinuju, who grounded the state on account of his contractual relationship with his own godfather, Emeka Offor. But he wanted to make a name for himself, and he decided to pay all the arrears of school fees, open the school, doctors were paid. But this was contrary to the agreement he reached with Chris Oba, who now had to abduct him. He was abducted, and all the information we heard later was that they had taken him to a shrine at Okija, where he had sworn an oath to perform certain contractual obligations. By the time he reneged, that was a problem for him. So you can't say it's...
All right, thank you so much. Now, with what you've said, what is the implication of Godfatherism in democratic system in our country, Nigeria?
Well, you keep on insisting that we are running a democracy, but I keep on insisting that we're not running a democracy, we're just running civil rule. Because the people don't have ownership of the system. You understand? The system had been held hostage by a certain group of people. You see what's going on. The effect is a very debilitating effect. See what we just saw, something that just played out in Edo State.
Okay.
So the effect is very traumatic. The effect of Godfatherism on democracy in Nigeria is very traumatic, it's very debilitating, it's negativing all the whole concept of democracy. You know, it has not afforded our society to grow into a civilized environment. We still operate as if we're a primitive culture. And that is exactly what happened in Edo State, where Adams Oshomole, when he defeated Osumbo, he said he has defeated Godfatherism.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, he became the new godfather in town. He became the new godfather in town. So see the whole negative effect. So it's not in our interest. It's not in the people should take ownership of the democracy. The people should take ownership. There should be a very strong advocacy. We are laid back in this country. We are laid back. It's like we have been held hostage by a certain group of people. Our electoral processes are less than transparent. We can't even trust INEC. Nothing. So it has had a very negative effect on our democracy.
Okay, Barrister, where did the citizens of this country get it wrong that someone somewhere have to anoint a certain candidate and say, this person, vote for him? Where did it start? Where did we get it wrong? The citizens in this country, can't we identify someone on our own and say, this is the person we want to vote for? Let him go. Do we have to wait for another big man somewhere to always do that for us?
Ah, thank you. I think it's apathy. The people we are too laid back. There's so much apathy, and nobody wants to die. If you recall what happened during, like I cited earlier, during the time of Dr. Chris Ngige. Dr. Chris Ngige, he was removed from office by a police officer, Zone 9, what's the name? Forgotten his name now. But the police commander in charge of Zone 9, he was used to remove a sitting governor. You can imagine the apparatus of state, you know, an enforcement arm of government was used to remove a governor. And, you know, the governors, they are just, they say that they are chief security officers of their state, but they don't have any apparatus to enforce it. So each time these godfathers, because of the huge amount of resources at their disposal, they use it, and in connivance with law enforcement agencies, the military, the police, they have this access to use force on the people. When you go to the election on the day of balloting, you see police, army everywhere, and you just, most times you don't even come out to vote. But at the end of the day, the result is declared. So people have been held hostage. People have been cajoled into you know, just accepting the whole situation. So we don't have a very strong advocacy or a very strong citizen participation in our electoral process. Those who come out, Do you know the amount? Did you know the number of people that die every time there is election in this country? It's terrible. The human waste is too much, and so, you know, the young people are sacrificed every electoral process, you know, as thugs. So the thing is not encouraging. Well-intentioned people don't even come out again to run for any election. So you are left with, I wouldn't want to say the dregs of the society, but that's exactly what it seemed to be.
Yeah. So possibly this is one reason politics is a dirty game.
Of course, you can say it again.
All right, thank you so much. We'll leave it there. Viewers, at this junction, we shall observe this break. Please stay right there.
Godfatherism in government is a form of political corruption in which an influential member of a party assists another person or party in the climb to leadership due to many reasons, including unpopularity of the latter. Godfathers in politics don't usually run for office themselves, but many believe they are the ones who decide the election winners and losers. They are political sponsors who use money and influence to win support for their preferred candidates. It is also a situation where there's a big man who wields enormous political power and then anoints a godson whom he adopts as a candidate for the election. On the other hand, democracy is a form of government in which the people have the authority to choose their governing legislation. While a democratic system of government is a form of government in which supreme power is vested in the people and exercised by them directly or indirectly through a system of representation, usually involving periodic free elections. During elections, godfathers sit down with their wives and caucus and write down all who will contest the elections. They write these names before the primaries take place. And if you are not one of those candidates, they make sure that you have no access to the venue of the primaries. Their godsons, it is believed, are not always selected for their political acumen, but rather on their ability to repay and enrich their godfathers. And the godfathers will do all that is reasonably possible to get the godsons appointed into political offices. The actions of these godfathers often destroy lives and properties. Another implication of godfatherism is that it has led to the breakdown of law and order, thereby paving the way for some hooligans to exploit the opportunity to unleash terror on citizens. The deadless effect of the role of godfathers in politics lead to increase in crime rates. Godfathers recruit youths as foot soldiers and arm them by giving them the necessary logistics. The aftermath of this situation is kidnapping, courtesy, armed robbery, human trafficking, drug abuse, maladministration, and unaccountability. Another grievous implication of godfatherism in politics is the political office seekers are robbed of their independent and rational sense of judgment and personal dignity. They become mere surrogates and subservient to their godfathers. Godfather culture is more about the individual than the collective. Some of the godfathers are not out to get money. They just want respect. They want to be venerated if they come into the state. They want to be recognized as the most important person in that society. So therefore, godfatherism system cannot make democracy thrive.
it has been an interesting one on this program so far. And so we will continue our discussion. We've been looking at democracy and politics of Godfatherism in Nigeria. Barrister, how can we stop Godfatherism in Nigeria?
Well, I should be a round table. I don't think it's...
Who are you going to do round table with?
Yeah,
since these people are very, very powerful.
No, what I mean is the citizens should take ownership of the electoral process.
Okay.
And we should convocate. We should, you know, I think it has to do with reorientation. It's an cultural thing, or rather a culturalization process. We need to change our mindset. We need to even, we need to even identify whether we actually want democracy in this country. Because there's no point saying you are in democracy and your vote can't count. You understand? It's a travesty. You can't say that this is democracy. You know, check the percentage of voters in this country. Less than 20% of the registered voters vote in every election.
That's true.
You know, so
that's true.
So which means we don't trust the electoral process. It's not transparent. It's very violent, very volatile, and so what, in my own opinion, I think we should take ownership. The Bible says, God said that we should occupy until He comes.
Exactly.
You know, the earth is the Lord's and all that is in it. I think the churches, the civil society, you know, we should reorientate our people in a way that we will take back our society. We'll take back our society, we'll take ownership, we'll take responsibility. Because if we do not take responsibility of our society, we'll continue to be discussing it instead of implementing it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Now, is Godfatherism a Nigerian thing, or is found in every country of the world?
Well, I've not done a comparative analysis, but I think it's an African thing. Yes, I think it's an African thing. I think if you go to most African countries, it's like that. You know, well, when you go to the West, you know, I think Obama is trying to introduce Godfatherism in the U.S. now.
Okay, by bringing Joe
Biden, and he's going about raising funds for him. And from the calculation, it's like they are positioning his wife to be the vice presidential running mate to Biden. So maybe he will introduce it, and he will introduce it to the United States.
Seriously?
Yes.
All right. So with that, how can you rate the present administration on the issue of Godfatherism?
You know,
am I putting you on the spot?
I try not to make a comment on this. I try not to make a public comment back in my state. I switch loyalty to them, but I try not to. But I think their scorecard is everybody can make a tick and score them as they wish. But I think if you ask me in terms of Godfatherism, there is an aspect of Godfatherism that Muhammad Buhari brought. If you recall, during his first election, without even being direct, a lot of people, especially in the north, a lot of governors won simply because they belong to APC.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's true.
That was a bandwagon
that's
effect.
True.
And it was because of him, Buhari.
Yes.
You know, that is a kind of healthy Godfatherism that can be played. He didn't give them money.
Yeah.
But because of his vaunted integrity, which largely he has destroyed now anyway. Forget the fact that his media people are trying to manage his image. But in terms of the high pedestal his anti-corruption stance was, everybody who belonged to APC generally won in the north simply because of their attachment to the candidacy of Muhammad Buhari.
Yeah.
But now you can see the last election, it was fairly balanced. Like PDP covered Bauchi,
some few places,
Adamawa, exactly. So it wasn't that bandwagon effect because of the personality of Muhammad Buhari didn't play any factor. So that is, if the only thing is that most times in our democracy, we take 2 steps, we take 3 steps forward and 10 steps backward. Most of the gains we have made in our democracy, starting from Ways panel to the time of Jonathan, this particular INEC under Muhammad Buhari had eroded all those gains. So we don't know, and there is no electoral reform being contemplated by this present administration. So I'll say that it's neither here nor there.
All right, all right, all right.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Now, sir,
Yes, sir.
you agree with me that there are politicians who are men and women of integrity.
Yes.
But because they are not having godfathers backing them, they've been trying and they are not getting it. What is your advice to those kind of politicians?
I think, well, my advice to them is, I think, looking at my own example, I must be very, is that I think God gives a situation to, God will not do for you. God will not, like now, if an American goes to maybe somewhere in Guzo, maybe in Zamfara, in a village, as desirous as he is to give them a good pipe-borne water, because they don't have any water there. But he's an American. Maybe he comes from the state of New York, where they have a very good pipe-borne water system. But as much as he will want to give them water, there's no way he can pipe water from New York to Guzo. He can only make do with the facility, with the infrastructure on ground in Guzo, maybe, which will eventually be borehole. He will dig a borehole or this hand sumo. So that's just what he can do. So God, even if God wants to give us a very good democracy here, he can only make do with the infrastructure we present, the system that is operable here. So I don't think that because of my experience in politics, miracles don't happen in politics. Miracles don't happen in politics. People are governed. People are governed by the kind of people they elect. The electoral system, the INEC, the electoral system, the whole process determines who gets elected.
Yeah.
So it's either if you can't join them, you step aside. If you can't join them, find something else. Find another way of reaching out. If you feel led to make an impact in the society, there are many ways to make an impact other than the political process. The political process in Nigeria is so, that's why most times when you come to church, I say, pray for our leaders. I wonder whether the pastors or the bishops that say pray for our leaders, whether they understand what they are saying. Because the electoral process in Nigeria is too evil. It's too devilish, to the extent that even the primaries, the party primaries, people are taking, the delegates are taken to the shrine, or even made to swear oaths, take oaths in order to vote for a particular person who gives them money. And at the end of the day, when you emerge under that kind of process, a bishop will tell me to pray for you. Does it make any sense?
Well, I think that if you're familiar with the Bible, it has been said that in Romans 13,
I don't think the Bible
no
contemplated.
authority,
No, I don't think the Bible contemplated.
no authority exists without the permission of God.
I don't think the Bible contemplated that kind of.
No, the Bible did not.
Yes.
The Bible did not agree. You have to be fetish, to become what, and all of that.
Yes.
People have manipulated their way into position. But certainly every position, everyone that has already become, you have to pray for him. Even though the process is bad, you pray for him that God will help him. God can change him even while he's a leader.
How many has he changed? You don't seem to get it. How many has he changed? It shows that is not what it is. We are just being fanciful.
Okay,
It's
okay.
not what it is. That's
All
not
right.
what God is contemplating.
All right.
How many of them has He changed?
All right, all right. Now, as we begin to round off, are there Godfatherism in other spheres of life apart from politics?
Of course, of course. Even,
Name them.
Yes, even in the church, some bishops determine who succeed them. Some bishops determine who succeed them. Even in
Are you a bishop? How did you know?
Well, I have a lot of bishop friends. Not necessarily in Anglican. Even in workplaces, some people in parastatals, some people retiring directors determine also who will step in. You know.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Now, what is your advice to godfathers, those who have made themselves God for other politicians? What is your advice to them?
Well, my advice to them is that they should realize that one day they must give account of their stewardship. Whatever funds or influence have been given to them, they must render account at the end of the day. So while they are at it, they should bring about a system of government, a system in society that will best serve God, that will best serve the masses.
Okay.
Let them use their influence to bring about systems of governance that can serve the generality of the people.
All right. Thank you so much, Barrister.
Thank you too, sir.
Thank you for your time and coming to share your thought on this very important topic, democracy and politics of Godfatherism in Nigeria. Godfatherism is a form of political corruption in which an influential member of the party decides to choose a particular candidate and anoint, and then he ensures that the candidate play his bidding while he is there. And from all that we have discussed today, Godfatherism is really a very bad and corrupt system in this country. And it has actually marred the politics and democracy of our country. And so we advise Godfathers to use your influence on a positive note, not just to use your influence for the benefit of yourself, but let it be for the benefit of our country. Until we come your way again, same time, same station next week, I remain your regular presenter, Smart Simon.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and viewers and does not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the Advent Cable Network Nigeria, ACNNTV.